My name is Pete. I am one of the startup coaches here at Startup Dunedin. I am coming to you from Melbourne, Australia, where I moved to a year ago. One of the things we do in Australia is called an acknowledgement of country, which is recognizing the Indigenous peoples who inhabited this land before Western people came 250 years ago. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I come to you from. That is the Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. These lands were never ceded. I pay respect to elders past, present and future. And this is why we're here today, Pitching 101. I'm going to go through a bunch of things around the purpose of a pitch, outline of a pitch, some tips, and answering your questions. Thank you to everyone who sent questions through as part of the sign-up form. The first, hang on, before I get to the first most important thing, I will just go through these things, this is why we're here. There's $5,000 up for grabs for student startups in the pitch competition. This is a 5-minute pitch via video. Applications close on Friday, the 19th of September, and the pitch competition takes place with an in-person event on the evening of Tuesday, the 7th of October. Startup Dunedin is here to support anyone building something in Dunedin. So you can meet with us, you can sign up to our weekly newsletter and follow us on social media channels. Today's session, I'm going to talk to you about the simplest version of a pitch is a 3-part story. I'm going to give you an example or several examples of startup pitches. I'm going to give you a pitch outline and some slides and another example. I'm going to share some tips with you and go through the questions that you've submitted around the judging, the process, the content, the length, etc. And this is being recorded and a recording will be available later today. And the most important thing is that I'm here for you. So please use the chat or raise your hand or interrupt, use reaction emojis, etc. My goal for the next hour is to make you feel confident. Okay, so if I use a term that you don't understand or I don't explain something clearly enough for you, please interrupt or put something in the chat. I have the chat open. I'm watching that. There are no silly questions. Of course, there are silly questions. Please ask your silly questions. This is a safe space to do so. I'm very patient and I've heard a lot. I've been working in the startup space since 2008. That's not right, 2018. And I've worked with a lot of people who have never even heard the term startup before coming to me. So please let me know what questions you have, what comments you have, and let's practice. So I'm going to say something that makes me look really smart and that I know everything about startups. So I'm going to talk about raising money on a pre-money safe versus a post-money safe for B2B vertical SaaS land and expand go-to-market strategy. If I do this and I use all these crazy words that you've never heard of, what are you going to do? Tell me in the chat. Raise your hand, make a face, do a reaction emoji, do some kind of reaction to let me know, nah, I don't get it. Please explain. One or thanks, Daniel. Zone out. Lol. Love it. Yeah, that is not my goal. I don't want you to zone out. I don't want you to be confused. I don't want you to feel silly for not knowing these terms. At Startup Dunedin, as much as possible, we try to use plain language. So that's the most important thing. The next most important thing is how to pitch. That's why you're here. So I'm going to give you the short version and make this as understandable and least scary as possible, which is to say the simplest version of a pitch is a 3-part story. And I just came up with this silly example, which is, oh no, pigs have houses destroyed by a wolf. Right? This is the story of the 3 little pigs. Oh no, wolf is coming. Pigs have their houses destroyed. And so let's make stronger houses that are made of bricks. And because of that, the house survived and the pig saved his brothers, right? So, oh no, what is wrong? What is the problem? Oh, and so here's the solution. And because of that, what is the outcome? What is the impact? That's the simplest thing. If you record a video and it's you talking to camera like I am here, and I just tell this story, that is a startup pitch, and that is covering your bases. So if you tune out now, zone out, lol, you have at least heard the simplest version. So the basics. The basics of a pitch is to tell a story. And these are the things that you need to know. The metaphor that I use is that you have a solution, you have an idea for a thing, and that is a key. And that key unlocks a very specific lock, right? So this key is for this padlock. And so when you are telling your story about your startup, you need to tell the audience what that lock is. You need to describe what is the very particular situation in which your key is the obvious solution or the best solution. So the 5 bullet points here, the basics are: tell us about you and why you care. Show us your passion. Show us how you came to discover that this problem existed or this solution was a good idea. Tell us about the opportunity. And I've chosen the word opportunity there because there are lots of different ways to come to this. The most simple to understand way that we talk about at Startup Dunedin is, what is a problem that you are solving and who has that problem? I'm going to go through more examples of this over the next kind of 15 minutes. The simplest thing is just tell us about the opportunity. Paint the picture of that lock so that your key is the obvious answer. Then the next part, explain your solution, explain your idea, explain your thing, and tell us why it is valuable to those people who have the problem or to that opportunity. Then present some kind of evidence to support the above. So it's not just your word for it. It's not just the story. It is giving us some kind of, yeah, and here is some kind of evidence that this is on the right track. Make us care, right? Tell us the impact. So paint a picture of, because of this problem, you know, the three little pigs, the first two pigs, their houses have been blown down by this wolf. They have nowhere to live. They had to flee from the wolf. That is a terrible situation. Make us care. What are the stakes? And then you can make us care by telling us about the potential impact. So once we build these houses out of bricks, the pigs are safe from the wolf. In fact, the wolf got itself in a little bit of hot smoke trying to get into this house. And the brother was a hero, got to save his brothers, who then moved in with him and then eventually build brick houses of their own. To make us care. The final thing on this slide is that this is too much text for this slide. Trying to make 6 points in one slide, you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what is important. So too much text, too many points, and too much text for this slide. Okay, we're about to watch an example pitch. And before we do, I'm going to ask you to put in the chat, how much do you know about ambulance administration management? Between 0 and 10. 0, you know nothing. 10, you are an expert. And while you're doing that, I'm going to figure out how to share my screen with sound. Oh, this used to be easy. All right, share sound. Optimize for video. Oh, Caleb knows 1 out of 10. Sally knows 2 out of 10. Interesting. Interesting. All right. So now we are going to watch a pitch together that goes for just over 2 minutes.
Hello everyone. We are RigPlenish. We make ambulances more efficient by reducing paperwork through a web and mobile application. This is a picture of a paramedic and an EMT filling out paperwork. We have spent hundreds of hours doing ride-alongs in ambulances and visiting ambulance companies in 7 different states. We learned that each ambulance run is 2 hours long, but a third of their time, 40 minutes, is spent on filling out paperwork. This system is completely inefficient. With RigPlenish, we reduce those 40 minutes to 4 minutes. And this is important because ambulance companies earn their revenue on a per ambulance run basis. We are a web and mobile application that manages each aspect of an ambulance run. We automate checklists, we automate compliance, and we even help with the communication between the ambulance hub and the hospitals. We have 1 paid customers and 2 LOIs from some of the biggest players in the market. They account for 4.4 million ambulance runs. We charge $2,000 per ambulance per month, and there are 55,000 ambulances in the United States. That alone is a $1.3 billion opportunity, and that's just the beginning. We want to be the software that supports and promotes all emergency personnel, including fire trucks and police. Again, we are RigPlenish. We reduce paperwork by 90%. We are live with some of the biggest players in the market, and it's a $1.3 billion opportunity. If you would like to talk to us, we are the women in orange. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that was the pitch for RigPlenish. One of my favorite examples because in 2 and a bit minutes, it does a lot. But go to the next. The way we would be looking at this from the other side, from hearing this pitch, is we'd be asking ourselves, does this sound like a compelling problem that is worth solving? Does it sound like the team understands the problem and the customer? And my question for you, do you know enough about ambulance admin management to know if this solution is a good idea? So if you were to score this startup on these 3 questions, what score would you give out of 10? I'm not actually fishing for like a 10 or anything. I'm curious to hear from you. So pop in the chat. Pop in the chat. Daniel says 8 to 10. Yeah, Nicholas says 8. Sally says 7 to 9. Cool. So here is what RigPlenish did in 2 minutes and 18 seconds. So in the introduction, that went for 14 seconds, they said, we do X for Y by doing Z, right? So we reduce paperwork for ambulance drivers by automating the administration. I can't remember what it was. That's a really useful introduction because it tells us, here's what I'm about to listen to. Here's the headspace that I need to be in. They talked about the problem and who has it. That's what I said at the beginning, was like, tell us about the opportunity. So in 35 seconds, they basically told us paperwork in ambulances takes 40 minutes, 1/3 of their time. That is the key, that is the lock that they are painting the picture of. So at the beginning, you said you had no understanding of ambulance admin management. Now you know it takes 40 minutes. That's a lot of time and it's costing them money. What she didn't say was this is costing people their lives, right? Purely a business perspective. So what is the value proposition? What is the thing, what is the idea that we are selling to these customers? It takes 15 seconds. They say basically that 40 minutes goes down to 4 minutes, saves you money. That is the key. That is the key that opens this particular lock. 20 seconds, what our product does. What is the evidence that this is a good idea or that this is a good business idea? Well, we have one customer already and two maybes, what she called LOIs, letters of intent. So one customer, two other customers who are interested. How do we make money? This is the big one. 5 seconds. We charge $2,000 per ambulance per month. That's it. When you see in a pitch deck template or, in some kind of pitch competition, what is your business model? It is basically asking, how do you make money or how does the business work? And that can be as simple as saying it's a subscription with a monthly fee of X or an annual fee of X, or we charge $100. Doesn't have to be this big thing. 5 seconds. How do we make money? What is the size of this opportunity? 20 seconds talked about it's a $1.6 billion market, and then we can expand to fire and police. And what do we want? Come and talk to us. That was just kind of the summary at the end. That was 20 seconds. So in 2 minutes and 18 seconds, 2 minutes and 18 seconds, what is the problem? What is the solution? Here's the evidence. That kind of the basic thing at the beginning. I've just kind of emphasized this point. So 35 seconds to tell us about the problem and who has it, 5 seconds to talk about the business model. Another 35 seconds to tell us about the solution. So pretty much the same solution, problem and solution. And yeah, that really nice introduction there of we do X for Y by doing Z. You don't have to use that particular formula. But it's a nice kind of context setting of you're about to hear about ambulances and some kind of software app. So I think if they had 5 minutes, I would want to hear who they are. So why do they care about this problem? So what is their why? Why are they engaged in solving this? And why should we believe that you can solve it? So what kind of credibility do you have? Have you been working in there? So comment something they did not have in their pitch. Is it important who they are and why are they the right people to do it? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Thanks, Sally. Anticipated my follow-up slide. What is their big vision? What is the impact that they want to make? And this is the make us care. And is this just in the USA or are they thinking about going global? So what is their big picture vision? As Sally put in the comment there, like, why is this important? Show us the product. Show us someone using it. Like, I don't have a good idea of what this thing actually is other than it's software. A testimonial or some kind of outcomes, what have they been able to achieve for their customer? And how are they going to reach customers? So we know that they're selling to ambulances in 7 states. There's talked about, but how do they actually find those people? How do they actually sell to them? That's the context. I'll give you a kind of an outline for what you can put in your pitch. And if this is too complicated for you or too overwhelming for you, I don't want you to be discouraged. You can just talk to camera and tell us about the problem, tell us how you want to solve it, and tell us what the impact would be. A pitch doesn't have to be slides. A pitch can just be talking. I've seen the ones that are like drawn on paper as kind of a flip chart, right? A typical startup pitch outline would look something like this. Got the title slide, we do X for Y. Tell us about the problem and the customer. That's the, what is the lock. Tell us about the value proposition. So why those customers want you. So it might be faster, cheaper, more convenient, better, etc. Right? So what is that value? Why they're buying it? And how does it work? So show us some screenshots or show us a process diagram. That's a bad choice of words. Show us the process, the journey that it would be with your solution. Business model. How does it make money? Simple. Not simple. Keep it simple. Traction or progress. Why is this a good idea? What's the evidence that this is a good idea? How are you going to reach those customers? So what, in startup terms, is a go-to-market approach. What is that market opportunity? So $1.6 billion market. Who is the team? Why do you care? In a typical startup pitch, you'd have the ask, we want money, we want customers, we want introductions. And what is your aspiration or what is your vision? And I put the unlocked padlock here because this is painting the picture of once you build your houses out of bricks, then you will be safe from wolves, right? So it's like, here is the problem, here's our solution. What's the result? Tell us about the result. That's a typical one. Boiling it down to what is simple for you for this 5-minute pitch, for this pitch competition. Tell us about the title slide, right? Set that context. We are an iPhone app that helps you save money. What is the problem and who is the customer or the user, basically who has that problem? Make us care. I'll go into that in a little bit more. Tell us about, what's the value of your solution and how it might work. Tell us what progress you've made or what evidence is for this. Tell us, again, in startup terms, what's the market opportunity? In simple terms, how much impact could you make, right? So if you solve this problem for one person, we could then solve it for 1 billion people, right? Whatever that is, like paint that picture, make us care. Nicholas, I see your question. I'll come to that in a sec. And then the team, tell us your story. Tell us why this is important to you or how you came across this, right? So it might be that you work in a particular area and you see this problem, or you have lived experience of this problem, or you have friends and family who have this problem, right? Or you have experience using a particular technology or some kind of, you already make things out of clay. So you thought, well, I will make this solution out of clay, right? That's boiling it down. What would you recommend for an earlier stage startup pitch to replace a product demonstration if it's still being built? Excellent question, Nicholas, and I'll answer that now. Which is you can do any kind of illustration of that product to help us understand it, right? Your goal is to help the audience understand what you're talking about. So if you've got a product and it's still being built, you can just draw what it would look like or do a mock-up of what the screens might be or explain what the function that it does might be, right? So that could be one of the teams at the startup, at Startup Dunedin, is building a doorbell with a camera in it that is going to go into retirement villages to help people see who is at the door and use AI to say, this is a person you can trust or this is not a person that you can trust, right? So if you were to do that without actually having the product, you could do, well, in your setup, here is the problem. So person answers the door, it's a scammer, they give away their information, etc. You could have just pictures on the thing, right? Like person rings the door, doorbell decides, is this person you can trust? Green, not trust, red, and gives an alert to the person. So without even showing doorbell, camera, etc., you can just explain this is the, step 1, 2, 3 now. This would be the step 1, 2, 3 with the product. So it's not about making us go, wow, this is fancy, this is really well designed. It's about us understanding what you're talking about so that we can go, yep, I get it. It's an iPhone app and it does this, this, and this. If I haven't answered that question, Nicholas, please ask a follow-up. So here is what can you start by outlining the problem and need immediately and then introduce solution? We've got the title slide after that. You can. So nothing about what I'm saying is a hard rule. The purpose of the title slide is, and thinking about the context of this, where the judges might be looking at 20 or 30 of these in a row, is just to help us get from I've just been thinking about doorbell cameras, right? And okay, now I need to switch context. We're talking about an iPhone app in helping young people save money, right? So the purpose of the title slide is just kind of like a cool, setting the scene, and you can just do that with imagery, etc. It could just be a 10-second, hi, I'm Daniel. I'm working on an iPhone app to help young people save money. Next, pause, next slide. Here is the problem, etc. So you can, and it's helpful in this context to give us that 10-second title slide just to give us the understanding and that be in the right headspace when you're talking about your problem. So title slide, startup name, project name, whatever you want to call it, logo if you have one. So yeah, the purpose, as I said up the top here, is to set expectations so we understand what's to come. A one-liner, we are X that does Y for Z. Again, the purpose is not to be like this big sales pitch, oh my God, we're going to be the best thing in the world, but more like you're about to see an iPhone app aimed at 20-year-olds, right? So a smartphone app to help young professionals track savings goals. Cool, I get it. Now we're getting into the pitch. An image can really quickly convey the context. So if it's an image of a piggy bank, I know, cool, we're talking about money. You don't have to do an overview or an agenda on I'm going to talk about. You can just get straight to the point. Purpose. No, not purpose. Problem and customer. The purpose is to make us care and understand. Make us care about this being a problem that needs to be solved and make us understand what that problem is. As I showed in that example, you didn't know anything about ambulance admin paperwork, and the pitch gave you enough to go, okay, if that's the case, I get that this solution makes sense. So the problem, who has it? What are the consequences of that? How are they solving it now so that you can come along with something better? Tell us your unique insight into the user and the problem. So the reason that these solutions aren't good enough is whatever. There's two ways that I like to do this. One is I call it like zoom in, zoom out. You can talk about the big picture and then zoom into an individual story. So I've seen a lot of this, especially with environmental sustainability things, around the world, 1.6 billion tons of plastic waste, blah, blah, blah. This is the big thing. And then zoom into an individual story. This river is clogged and it impacts these people who live on the banks or something. You can do it the other way around. You can go, this is Martha. Martha lives on the banks of this river and she has pollution backing up against her property. Then zoom out. It's not just Martha, around the world, 1.6 billion, blah, blah, blah. So tell us why this is setting up why your solution should exist. In this context, tell us how many people you have spoken to, if you have interviewed people to understand the story. And yeah, think of this like a story. Optional, in one sentence, just summarize. So the problem we're trying to solve is plastic waste going into rivers. Cool, again, I get it, right? Get us all on the same page, get clarity before you're moving on to your solution. And the goal here is, you've painted the lock. This is the key. This makes sense. Be the hero, right? That's why we created blah to solve this problem. Tell us the benefit for those users. And again, that can be quite boiled down to, it's easy to use, it's searchable, it's trustworthy, right? These are the things that they wanted. These are the things we're giving them. Why would your user want to use this versus anything else? And those value propositions should address the things you've talked about when you're setting up the problem. right? So the problem with the current solutions is they're really difficult to use. It's really hard to find things, and they're not sure if they can trust them. Well, that's why we created this, which is easy to use, searchable, and trustworthy, right? You control the narrative, so you set things up the way that they're going to make you the hero. Explain how it works and make me understand what it is and believe it solves the problem. So it could be how it works, 1, 2, 3. It could be screenshots. It does this, this is what it looks like. What are the top 3 features that deliver those value propositions? It's for me to understand what does it do and help me picture how it works. If you have a demo or a prototype, then that's a great time to show it. Business model. Does the business make sense? Does it make sense as a business? How do you make money? How does the business work? Right? They do this. We get 5%, whatever that is. It's a subscription. This can be very simple. As I'll talk about in a moment when I'm talking about the criteria that the judges are looking for, you don't have to do all of these things. So if business model is like, I don't know, that's cool. You can just say business model, I don't know, or leave it out. You're not going to fail because you haven't hit one of these particular things. Show us the progress. So what is your best evidence? Another thing I'll talk about, that your customer is willing to pay for your solution and that it works to solve the problem. So numbers, statistics, logos, testimonials, photographs, basically, as I've put in the tip here, what is your best evidence? And if you're early stage, if you don't have a product yet, if no one's bought it yet, then show us kind of progress towards it. So maybe you have done a mock-up of this is what it looks like, or this is what the process would be, and you've talked to one of your potential users, potential customers, and they have said, wow, this sounds amazing. Then put that, like we showed it to this person and they said, wow, this would solve all my problems, right? Your best evidence. It doesn't have to be revenue. It doesn't have to be paying users or actual users. Social media is a weird one where it's like, we have 1,000 followers on social media. That tells us you're good at social media and maybe there's interest in the space. I wouldn't spend a lot of time doing that. I think I would rather have one quote from one potential user than like 1,000 people liking something or following your channel on social media. If you're doing stuff on social media, you could put out a post that says like, has this ever happened to you? Do you have this problem? And, or, like with this solution, solve all your problems, and show us some comments on that, like get people to actually comment. That would be better evidence than just a like or a follow. To that question, like early stage, right? Like even if it's not the final product, you can still show value to the user. So as an example, and this was just a random one that came up, let's say you're trying to start a business that's around helping people code, whatever. You could start with just like a free workshop or a 1-hour workshop or a paid, like whatever. Come along to this meetup. Right. Let's see if we're talking about people who are coding with AI, will they come to a coffee one morning to talk about it, right? And then show us how many people are there. So to those people who asked in questions, do I have to be able to code, etc.? No, you can just show a screenshot or something that is like towards the final product. How are you going to get customers or users? The purpose of this is to show that you know where your customers are, right? So if it's like, if you're selling doorbells to 80-year-olds in retirement homes saying that you're going to sell to them via TikTok, probably doesn't show that you know how to reach your customers. On the other hand, if you're selling to 18-year-olds or 16-year-old, whoever uses TikTok, that might be a good channel, right? So how are customers going to find out about you? And how are you going to reach them? Team, tell us who you are, why you're doing this. If you have any relevant experience, tell us about that, lived experience, or family and friends who have it, or you use the technology, you worked in the industry. Give us confidence in you, or just make us care more. and then sell the vision. So again, that kind of unlocked key, padlock. Sell us the vision of the world with your solution in it. So if you set up an individual story, Rebecca has this, come back to at the end that, we want to help Rebecca X, Y, and Z. We want to help Rebecca live a better life. How have you changed their experience or changed the world? I'm going to jump to Canva and give you another example because I've got some specific things if you're using slides to show. So this is a made-up pitch that I created following the pig theme and using a template in Canva. So title slide, Piggy Stardust. We are encouraging early career professionals to save their salary and grow their wealth. Right? We are doing X for Y. Got an image of an iPhone app here to give people the context that we're talking about some kind of app, phone technology, and the piggy bank to show we're talking about money. So really quickly, people can get their heads into, this is the kind of context that we're talking about. So this is Jamal. Jamal is 23 years old. He's 1 year out of university, working as a designer in some big tech company. And when we talk to him about money, he says, I'm broke again and it feels terrible. Who and what is the problem? I'm going to go a little bit further and say, Jamal told us, I'm embarrassed. I was never taught about money. I just avoid thinking about it. That's the individual experience. What is the problem? I'm broke. I'm embarrassed to talk about money. And so I just don't think about it. Zooming out. In fact, made up numbers, right? Don't actually make up numbers for the purpose of illustration. 79% of millennials or whatever we're up to, Gen Z, professionals have no financial goals, and 83% of them lack financial literacy. So this is the zoom out. What is the bigger picture of the problem? Well, our solution makes, so this is Piggy Stardust. It's an iPhone app that makes saving easy. It's 100% private and not judgmental. And if I set up the problem well, these things should feel obviously awesome, right? So what I didn't probably set up, and if I'm making this slide, I'll probably go back and make sure when I'm talking about the problem, I set up that other things that these people have tried have been difficult, right? They haven't worked because they've been too difficult. They're worried about their data or worried about some kind of thing, so that then 100% private makes sense as a value proposition for them. And if we talk about, I try and talk to mum about money, but she just makes me feel silly. Then when I talk about it's non-judgmental, then that makes sense, right? So you're like, obviously everything else is difficult. They're worried about data and privacy, and they can't talk to their parents because they make them feel silly. Therefore, make saving easy, 100% private, no judgment, makes total sense. Obviously awesome. Here's how it works. Step 1, they use our app. Step 2, they whisper their secrets into their phone. And step 3, they go out for cocktails, right? Terrible example, just because I ran out of imagination to come up with something. And your explanation of how it works could be as simple as 1, 2, 3, especially something like an app. How we make money. $3.99 subscription per month. We take 10% share of interest earned, and we earn affiliate referral fees. And this template is really weird. The font sizes are really weird. The actual info that you need to care about is like the smallest size. So if you look at this slide, what feels important is like descending. Oh, this is the least important thing. So if I were to redesign this slide, I would make it more like this. There are 3 revenue sources. Number 1, that's the small bit. And then $3.99 subscription per month is the first thing, second thing, third thing, right? Traction. This is what we've achieved so far. We've got subscribers and followers on social media. We ran this one-off event to see if there was interest, charged $10. We made $120 in ticket sales. If you didn't charge money, you could just say 50 people came to our workshop, whatever. Voted the #1 idea at Startup Weekend, and 20% user growth. This was just on the template, as was this. If I were to, what's my comment on this? Oh yeah, I can use the slide headings to tell my story. So I don't have to say traction, blah, blah, blah. I can just change that to Gen Z loves us, right? That gets the point across. And if you do this, and if you go, right, the point of this section of my pitch, the point of this slide is to convey Gen Z loves us, right? Our target audience loves us. Then what is the evidence that we include both on the slide and in what we say that supports this point? Because if I just want to support this point, I'm not going to put stuff down here that doesn't support it. Traction. So coming back to Jamal, I've already saved $3,000. It feels amazing, right? And if we update the slide to make it really tell the story, we've got, and it works. I've already saved $3,000. It feels amazing. Meet the Piggies. This is us. This is why we care. This is how you can help. This is what we want you to do. So download it, partner with us, talk to us about group memberships. And here we go to our big vision, right? What is the impact? Why should you care? Our goal is to help Gen Z save $1 billion by 2035. That's my Canva example. I think I'm now going to get into the Q&A. Practical tips. So don't start with a fancy template, right? This is my big tip. Don't start with a fancy template. Start with the story. Do an outline. Could be bullet point outline of what you want to say. Make it work without slides and then add the visuals for emphasis, right? So I want to say, I mean, you should be able to deliver the whole thing without slides at all, and I still get it. And then go, when you're talking about, here is the quote, I'm going to put that quote on a slide to make it really stand out. When I'm talking about, this is how many people in the world live without clean water, I'm going to put that number up on the slide because that's really important. Many templates, including the one I just showed you, use too much text. Keep it simple. Come back to what is the point I want the audience to take away from this slide? What is the point I'm trying to make? And 1 to 3 points per slide. If you're talking about the number of people impacted by X, you can just put the number up and we get that because it goes with what you're saying. Delete things from templates if you don't need them. They distract you when you're putting your pitch together and you're like, oh, I need to come up with this number here. No, delete it. Just get rid of it. It's going to distract you. It's going to distract the audience. Stick to what is going to emphasize the point I'm trying to make. And making it look good is the final step, which you could even skip if you want to, right? What is important is the understanding, getting the point, getting the story across. If it doesn't look good, like these slides don't look great at all, right? Making it look good is the final step. You want to be able to make changes until you do. Should be included what you can do and how you can help. Is that not applicable in this pitch? Great question, Srinesh. Yeah, I would skip it in this particular one, unless you're being really cheeky and you're like, give us $1,000 so we can do X. But yeah, for the purposes of this, you don't need it. Good question. Thank you. All right. Practice it, record it, edit it, rewatch it. You'll learn a lot by doing that. You'll also learn a lot from watching each other's pitches and giving feedback. Your questions. All right, here's the process. So applications are due Friday, the 19th of September. That's flexible, just quietly. It's a video of up to 5 minutes. If you can say it all in 4 minutes, say it all in 4 minutes. And a couple of quick questions, right? This is the pitch submission. Tell us your one sentence. This is just to help us. We're not judging this. This is to help us remember which one you are. Tell us about your progress to date. So what's your best evidence? What have you done? We've spoken to 15 people and we put a prototype together and had one person use it. What were you part of Audacious this year? The answer literally, legitimately can be no. If you weren't, this is just so we know. That's not a pass fail. So we will review them internally. Some of them, so around 7, will get selected to go to the next stage, which is being invited to pitch live on the evening of Tuesday, the 7th of October. If you are selected, you will get feedback beforehand. We'll help you with pitch coaching, give you practice so that you can change your pitch in between based on the feedback, and so that it's even better on the 7th of October. And even if you're not selected, just by entering, you might get other opportunities to pitch, and you can book free check-ins with the Startup Dunedin team to talk about anything that you're working on. So whether it's about to talk about the pitch or just like, how do I test this? How do I reach customers? We love to help, and we are here, and that is free. So some questions. So now is the time. If you have questions that I'm not addressing here, or you have follow-up questions, please use the chat. How long is the pitch? It's up to 5 minutes. That is strict. So if it's over 5 minutes, we'll stop watching at 5 minutes to keep it fair for everyone. It can be shorter. How many slides? I would say usually 5 to 10, but that's not strict. I personally use a lot of slides and I go through them really quickly. You could have 2 slides or 1 slide that has everything on it and you walk us through everything. You could have 0 slides and just talk. Video versus in person, what's the difference? It's the same principles. Yeah, it's the same principles as telling a story. It's helping us understand what the problem is and what the value of your solution is and what the impact of that solution would be. We will give you feedback in between the video pitch versus the in-person pitch, so you can change it as you feel like. Should you mention revenue? If you have it, yes, that's really good evidence, right? So we've, 100 people have bought it for $5. Great, that shows us 100 people have bought it. If you don't have that, give us your next best evidence. Should it be interactive? For the video one, I would say minimal. For a live one, generally minimal, because you don't have control of the time if other people are reacting. And what's common in live pitches is starting with a question to engage people. Have you ever had this happen? Or how many people have, tried to do X but have struggled? Yeah, great. Here's a problem, blah, blah, blah. Should it be entertaining? Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Entertaining is great. Totally okay not to. Totally okay just to do the standard pitch. Judging criteria. I've changed the name to scoring categories because there's not criteria. You don't have to cover them all. You don't have to ace them all. So here's what the judges are looking at. Is there a problem that you have demonstrated and that you understand? And sorry, in there should be the customer. Like, do you understand who has that problem? Does the solution meet the user needs better than the alternatives, right? What's your progress or your evidence that this is a good idea? In startup terms, traction, it's just like, give us the evidence that this is a good idea. The best evidence you have. Do you understand the market? Do you understand how big it is, what the trends are, what the opportunity is, how you're going to reach the customer? Do you have a believable business model? So if you say, people are going to pay $1,000 a month for this thing that everyone, like other people offer it for $5 a month, is that believable? What's your brand and marketing and sales approach? So coming back to like, how are you going to reach your customers and how are your customers going to find you? How audacious are you? What big ideas do you have? What hustle have you shown getting out there and talking to people or building prototypes or etc.? I know it's a very vague term, but that's what we call it. And what is the pitch quality, right? I think there's often a best pitch prize. Again, you can just do a standard, boring, not at all entertaining pitch that covers the right information. You might not win the best pitch award, but you might win a different award, right? So you don't have to score highly on all 8 of these things. If you do nothing else, I would say the problem and the solution and some kind of evidence that this is a good idea. What's the impact going to be? What's the distribution of prizes? This is decided by the judges on the night. There is a prize, $1,000 from Momentum, so sponsored by Momentum for traction. There has been a prize created by QGo for the best student services business, and there is often a prize for the positive impact, but the specifics are kind of decided on the night. Do we look at the number of views on your pitch video? No, no, we don't care about that. Can be an unlisted video that you don't share with anyone but us, and we just judge it based on the video itself. What are common pitching mistakes? I have a slide on that. How do you balance talking about the product, the market, and a personal story? Make us understand as long as we understand what is the situation, right? What is the opportunity or what is the problem? And how your solution addresses that, it's up to you. If you have a really compelling personal story that is about, this is your experience, your lived experience with this challenge and how you've tried to solve it in other ways. And here's how you think you could solve it. That could be a really compelling pitch. There was a pitch that won last year or the year before that they didn't have a solution. They just showed a really, really solid understanding of the problem and what the alternatives were. The people had tried to solve it and they weren't working. And so they knew this is what a solution has to look like. It has to be X, Y, and Z. They didn't know what that solution was. And they won a prize because they just had such a great understanding of the problem and the context. So yeah, the balance is like go with your strength. If your strength is that personal story, then lean into that and spend 3 or 4 out of the 5 minutes on that. 5 minutes maximum. How do you cut a long pitch down? I'm gonna say that you focus on what is the key point you want the audience to take away and what do you need to say to contribute to that? And the rest of it, you have to be ruthless and cut. So if you want us to understand Gen Z really struggling with money, with saving money, then what are the pieces of information or evidence you need for us to get? This is the problem. This is who has it. This is why it's a problem with the impact it's having. Everything else you can just strip away and go, cool. These are the 3 things we're going to say about that. Often I would say 3 things are probably a good guideline. Get things down to the 3 bullet points or the 3, threads of the story. Logistics. How do you upload to YouTube? So in Canva, if you are creating your slides in Canva, then you can, if you're creating as a video in Canva and narrating it, then you can go to share and download. And you can download that as an MP4 video. Then in YouTube, you can go to create. And if it's the first time doing it, so upload video. If it's your first time doing it, it will make you create a channel. And then you create a video and you would just select the video that you have there. I'm just going to grab a different one. So you just upload the video. And the really important step while it's uploading is to make sure the video is unlisted or public, because otherwise we can't see it. So here, title, whatever, description, we don't care about. You can leave it blank. Not made for kids. Next, next, next. Visibility, unlisted. That's the most important part of this. Then you can copy the video link and send it to us. What you can do, advanced version, is send that to someone else or open it in a new browser window and test that without being logged in as yourself. You can access it. I love this video. I'll show you that another time. Cool. Yeah. What if we don't have sales yet? Use the best evidence available. What if we can't code? Mock up what the product looks like or tell us what the process is and how it fits into the process. The goal, again, is to make us understand the product and understand the solution. It doesn't have to work yet. So if you can't code, or if it's not ready yet, just draw, screenshot, wireframe, whatever it is, what it looks like and what it does. So common mistakes. We don't know why your thing should exist because you haven't explained the problem it solves and for who. That's, I've got this great idea. Here is the great idea. Until you've painted the picture of that padlock, we don't understand why that key is relevant. Or we don't think your thing solves the problem because you talk about the cool features and not the outcome it creates, right? So it's got this and it does this and does that, but we who haven't painted and here is the outcome, or here is this solves the problem. Sometimes it's because the problem that you have set up and the solution you're proposing don't quite work together. So you might be talking about plastic waste in the Pacific Ocean, and then you say, so our solution is a new lid that goes on a bottle. And this, lid makes sure nothing ever spills. And so people aren't throwing their bottles away as much or something. You're like, that doesn't really work with polluted beaches in the Pacific Ocean, right? This is the what's the problem? So what's the prophecy? It's the chosen one, right? I use this example of why is Luke Skywalker the best hero in the galaxy? It's only because Darth Vader and the Death Star are set up as the problem, right? If it were a different problem, then Superman might be the best solution, or Spider-Man, or Wonder Woman. So you've got to explain what the prophecy is before we then see the hints at this must be the chosen one. What do I mean by evidence? I would group this roughly into 3 buckets. So what is the evidence that this is a good idea? Things you have done, right? This shows the progress you've made and the commitment you have to this. So you might have made a prototype or run an experiment. You might have interviewed lots of people. You might have made changes based on feedback, which shows a startup mindset. So show us the things you have done. Tell us about the customer or the user behavior. So this shows an understanding of the context. So who is the user? What is the problem? What are the alternatives they've tried? What is the value to them? So this is where you can use quotes or testimonials. You can show that people have signed up to a workshop, or signed up to a trial run. They might have pre-ordered it or even paid for it. They might have done user testing. So you might have gone, here is a prototype. Here is, us talking about our idea. We went and tested that with 1 or 2 of these people, and here is what they said about it. So what is the customer behavior, or what have they said? And then there's desktop research, which again shows us your understanding of the context. So this might be statistics, 79% of Gen Z, etc. It might be headline from news or the journals, right? So new evidence shows that blah, or everyone is struggling with X. We could talk about the market size or the value of a particular solution. So a couple of library databases that are really good here, IBISWorld, which has industry reports. So you could be talking about the media industry and go and pull up a report from IBISWorld that talks about the size of the media industry and particular, demographics. Euromonitor talks about industries and consumers. ProQuest and Census data. Again, this is recorded, so you'll be able to reference this later. That's the end. This is my long version, which I have 1 minute left. I'm not going to get to the long version of this. I feel like I should have had slides that summarized what I want to say, which is probably right back to the beginning, which is that, if nothing else, the really basic version is making sure we understand, oh no, this is the problem. And so here is the solution. Here's my idea for how to solve it. And because of that, this is what the world is going to look like as a result, both for this little pig and for pig kind. What questions have I not answered? What comments do you have? I'm at the end of my presentation, so I'm just going to, I've got 10 minutes. So if you have any other questions, let me know. Does market size have much weight? Could a niche solution with a solid case still store well? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It could score well. Market size doesn't really, because Audacious and because Startup Dunedin, we're really supportive of those really early stages. Often what we will do is we will tell people just focus on like your first one customer, your first 10 customers, go really niche. And from there, it might have really big opportunities. So I would say absolutely you could score really well just by going, here's the problem that these, really narrow group of people have, advanced rock climbers who are buying their first house. Um, you know, here is a really niche problem. And then you could throw in, from there, we would go here, here, and here. If you've got that, if you don't, that's fine as well. If introducing a team, would you do it from at the start, throughout their speak, or finish with summarizing who we are? Madison, that's a good question. I would say it's whatever flows best and whatever works best for you. So remembering this is a video, the initial one is a video. And so if three or two or more of you are speaking in the video, you probably don't need to go, now I'm going to throw across to Madison. Madison, tell us about the problem, etc. You could, if that's the style you want to go for, but having two or more people just like talking in the pitch, that's normal. That's fine. So you could do it wherever it fits best in the story. So if you're doing it at the beginning because you have lived experience or you understand, you have knowledge of the problem, if you worked in the industry, you could do that at the beginning and say, we're Madison X and Y. For the last 5 years, we've been working here, and here's a problem that we've seen. Or you could just do it at the end and be like, this is who we are. This is why we care, especially if it's not super relevant. Like if who you are is not super relevant to the problem you're solving, the solution you have, it's fine just to do it as kind of a like, hey, this is who we are. And this is the impact that we want to make as kind of a conclusion. If you don't have a team and working alone, do you need to introduce the team? Don't need to. No, I think out of interest, it's nice. Let me say, if it's a video pitch and we've got your face on it and you're like talking to it, no, you can just do that as part of the title, like, hey, I'm George and this is blah. I'm doing X for Y, right? Um, so yeah, no, it's nice to introduce yourself and at least get to see your face, especially if it's just a narrated PowerPoint kind of thing. But as I said, none of this is like have to do, right? Would success or experience from other startups be a good thing to add into the team section? Absolutely, Caleb. Experience, even if they're failures, right? Even if they didn't go anywhere, like talking about, hey, this is the third startup that we're working on, or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. It's engaging, right? And I guess to George's point, right? The goal of a pitch is to engage someone and to convey information and to get them to act. If introducing yourself and if talking about these things like this is the third startup, that's a point of interest. That gets us going, huh, cool. And when the judges are talking about you in the pitch room, they might be like, yeah, those like third startup people, or, George, who is the ice cream maker, right? Even if that's not relevant to the particular startup that you're pitching. Don't try to word the initial pitch eloquently, but more straight to the point and just cover the relevant and important points. Then if we make it through, we can make it sound better and more entertaining. Yep, that's a good summary. The most important thing is that we get it, that we understand it, right? If it's super entertaining, but we don't really understand, like, what are they talking about? That's not likely to get through, to be honest. Whereas if you're like, oh, it was pretty dry, but I got it. Like that was the problem they're solving, and this is the value, and that's really good. Because I want it to sound good, but it's super long. Yeah. So, um, it a really entertaining pitch might win best pitch, and there's got to be substance to it, right? We've got to understand it. So a startup pitch, and the reason we're like have a workshop about it, a startup pitch is a particular thing, or it feels like a particular thing. It's kind of not. It's kind of just a story or a presentation. But because it's a particular thing, like it's a pitch, it 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 comes with its own kind of context. So I often talk about a pitch as it's got two parts to it. Like one is the story and one is the like, here's the data, right? So it's really hard to weave in, here's the business model and here's how we're going to reach customers and here's the market size in that story of like, here is Jamal and here he's struggling with money. But it's that it's that artificialness is just part of pitching a startup, like a startup pitch rather. We're like story, story, story. Cool. Here's the business model. Here's how much money we're going to earn. Here's how much money we're raising. And now we're coming back to the story and when we talk about the impact. So it's okay for it to feel a bit weird and janky and like I'm just jumping straight from, here's how great the solution is to here's the money and here's the blah. That's normal. That's totally normal. So get your point across. If it gets through, even if it doesn't, we can give you coaching, but you'll get feedback and you'll get coaching and we can work on it. Good. I'm glad you put that comment in so I could stop talking because I was just going to repeat myself. Other questions, other comments? I hope that I have made this accessible and easy to understand for you, and that I have taken any pressure off on I have to do this thing called a startup pitch. And you're just like, cool, tell us what the problem is, tell us who has it, tell us how you're going to solve it, and tell us how awesome that would be. Because that's it. That's a startup pitch.